Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to our May 12, 2022 council meeting. In the interest of time efficiency and ensuring that everyone who wishes to address the council is given the opportunity to do so, the following will apply to all comments made by the public. If you desire to be recognized by the chair, please fill out a request form and present it to the city clerk present in council chambers. Each speaker shall be allotted 3 minutes to address the council, unless such time is extended by the mayor or by questions from council. Groups shall designate a spokesperson to avoid repetition of comments. Every effort will be made to avoid interrupting speakers. Thank you for participating in your city government. We ask that you also please silence all electronic devices. With that, I'll call this council meeting to order. Could we please stand together for the invocation? And we'd like to ask Pastor Russell Cheatham, if he will, from Heart Cry Chapel, please lead us in our invocation. Remain standing after the invocation for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your presence and your power with us tonight. Thank you, Lord, for our nation and the community we serve. We thank you and ask your blessing on all of our elected leaders and pray your divine protection on St. Cloud and Osceola County. We ask for your help. Oh Lord, give your people guidance in the matters at hand tonight, and may the work done here be conducted with a desire for unity and your will be done. Help us, oh God, as a community to continue to challenge each other to be our best for you and our best for one another. Now let's all pray together the prayer that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. And they all said, amen. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Russell.
Thank you.
You may be seated.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Blackwell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Here.
Councilmember Urban.
Here.
Councilmember Askew.
Here.
Councilmember Trace.
Here.
We do have an agenda update. We'll be moving the council action, the first item, right after the presentation by Purvis and Gray. With that, we have a presentation for the Employee of the Month, and we'll ask Deputy Mayor Matheny if she will accommodate that. No, they just, yeah, go ahead. Gabriel Almonte.
Okay, so the presentation of Employee of the Month is going to be given by Gabriel Almonte. Yay, come on down.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am proud to present the 2022 March Employee of the Month Award to none other than one of my top 2 staff members, reminding that Beautification Division is made up of 3 people, me included, Ricardo Perez. Now, I was told I only have 5 minutes to give this speech, which I first thought was not enough time to properly highlight the many reasons why Ricardo deserves this, but nonetheless, I will try. Ricardo has been working extremely hard on making improvements at Peghorn Nature Park and Trail. He has repaired dozens of broken wooden boards on the boardwalk, removed hazardous screws, pressure walked the decks, filled in dirt holes, mulched over muddy areas, and has overall made the trail safer and more accessible to the community. Peghorn Nature Park and Trail has not been fully accessible for over 2 years for the first time in a while. And now residents and their families are able to walk the 1-mile path that surrounds them with beauty. And that also includes the field trips that the St. Cloud Elementary does throughout the year, and the kids absolutely adore it. Ricardo has also made improvements to the ADA ramp on the rear entrance of the Peghorn Park Trailhead Center. He is not only making a city park more secure, but accessible to all, which is an aspect that is often overlooked. But not when it comes to Ricardo, since he always is thinking of others. He has also saved the city time and money in the process. Park visitors are happy and complimenting how great and nice the trail is on a daily basis now. Going on a nature walk can be difficult to locate in the city with limited trails. But now people can find peace and joy through a stroll at Peghorn. With all that's been going on with the pandemic, sometimes a prescription in nature therapy can make a world of a difference. All this would not be possible without Ricardo's incredible work. Additionally, on Wednesday, March 15th, Ricardo drove past a St. Cloud resident with a flat tire on the side of the road on 17th Street. The resident was outside the vehicle in distress, but on the phone. He figured the resident would acquire help from AAA, a friend, or family. An hour passed by, and he was able to accomplish his objective. He still saw the resident there in distress. He decided he can no longer see this person like this. He did a U-turn. He went back to the resident and was able to help change out their tire in an efficient manner. In doing so, the resident was very happy and grateful, along with creating a safer driving condition for everybody else on the road. The last, but nowhere near the least, Ricardo has made large positive impacts in the overall work culture in the Parks and Recreation Department. He shows up early every day with a big smile on his face and wishes everybody good morning, often in the singing tone as well. Ricardo's work ethic is absolutely amazing. He's always on the go, taking initiative, and tries to help out whenever possible. There's no job too small or too big for him to accomplish. He has such a great attitude that's contagious to those who work around him. Ricardo has also wondrous humor that makes others laugh and makes work more enjoyable overall. Without a doubt, I believe the 2022 March Employee of the Month most definitely deserves to be awarded to Ricardo Perez.
Thank you, Ricardo. Would you like to say something?
No, thank you.
Now you want to talk?
I see why you're one of the top 3 employees. Do you want to, I think they want to take a photo of us. Great. I think this is yours as well?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No. I'll take care of it. Good sound? At this time, we have a presentation by Tim Westgate and Matthew Gnu, a financial report. Works with Purvis and Gray. Please come forward. It's good to see you.
Set that aside real quick. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm sure everybody was excited once you saw the audit on the agenda for today. So tonight we are here to present the results of the September 30th, 2021 audit. We've previously discussed the results of the audit with city management and with some of the council members, as they may have had questions. Let me see if the slides work here. Here we go. Good. So my name is Tim Westgate. I'm an audit partner on the engagement. With me today is Matt Gano, who will share with you in a few moments some of the audit results as well. Also pictured on this slide is Michael Sandstrom, who is the Information Technology Manager on the audit engagement for the city. The 3 of us are the leadership team for the audit. Before we get into the particulars of the audit, I was asked and am pleased to bring up and mention the city and recognize the city's receipt of the award for their participation in the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement and Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is not an award from Purvis Gray, but is rather a notable financial reporting accomplishment of the city. The GFOA established the program to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the minimum reporting requirements of generally accepted accounting principles to prepare an annual comprehensive financial report that, in the evidence of and spirit of transparency and full disclosure, and then to recognize those cities that meet those requirements and successfully achieve that goal. The city has met that goal for over 20 years, most recently for the 2020 financial report, and we expect that this 2021 will receive the award as well. Reports submitted to the program are reviewed by professional staff of the GFOA, as well as individuals participating in the program, independent preparers, independent auditors, academics, and other finance professionals. So we want to recognize the city. This is the highest level that is out there for financial reporting in the nation. So we recognize the city for participation in that program. So now getting into some of the less exciting details, the auditor's reports. These financial statements do meet your external financial reporting requirements that the city is exposed to under Florida statutes, the rules of the Florida Auditor General, as well as requirements of secondary bond markets, some of your direct borrowings, for example, from the Florida Department of DEP, and direct bank debt, as well as federal and state granting agencies, and of course the GFOA program that we met. The first item up on the presentation slides there is the Independent Auditor's Report, and that is the primary report that you're looking for from your auditor. And if you wanted to flip through, it would be found on page 1. I'm just touching on some highlights today. That report does discuss that the financial statements and internal control are management's responsibility. Our role as auditors is to issue an opinion on those financial statements. We're pleased to issue an unmodified or clean opinion. That is the highest level of assurance you can receive on financial statements. The next segment on that same slide relates to internal control. We look at internal control over financial reporting, and we would report to you items that we deem to be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control or other non-compliance issues. We're pleased that we do not have any of those items to report, with the exception of the DSD's bond compliance issue, of which you're very familiar, reaching back to 2013 when those bonds originally became past due. And we recognize, so our reports discuss that scenario, as well as some of the amounts loaned and transferred from the city. And of course, the future repayment options that are out there. We do remain hopeful that the successful near-term completion of those sales contracts will put all of this behind you, and we won't have to continue to talk about it. So,
Amen to that.
exactly. So we are hopeful, but that is the only finding per se that's non-compliance item that's in the report. A few other reports that we issue under Florida rules of the Auditor General. Under Statute 218-415, we're asked to look at investment compliance. In summary, we're pleased to say that the city does meet the statutory investment compliance and your own, there were no findings in that regard. The management letter, also under rules of the Florida Auditor General, would talk about items like deteriorating financial condition, financial emergencies, items like that that would come in that may exist, but we're happy to say those are not items you will find in your report. That is a clean report as well, again, other than the DSD item that is discussed. The city is the recipient of federal grants, of which during 2021 there was $1.2 million of expenditures, and with that a federal single audit was required. And that single audit, based on a risk assessment procedure, identifies the major federal grants and has us look at extended procedures related to compliance. Again, we're pleased to say that is a clean report, that we believe the city did comply with the compliance requirements under those grants. Significant estimates and judgments that are made. So in addition to the reports, there was the separate letter that is addressed to City Council that talks about some of the financial highlights. Some of those talk about estimates, and the reason being is, as opposed to a check that you write, estimates do rely on certain judgments, significant key assumptions, sometimes based on history and experience of management, sometimes based on actuarial data or engineers and other data. Those are all disclosed in detail in the financial reports and that letter. So that's just something under the standards we're requested to communicate with those charged with governance. So with that, I will hand the remote off to Matt and let him touch on some of the other significant estimates.
Thank you.
Just to go over some of the key financial highlights, not to go over every total that's presented here on this slide, but we show in the first column the change in the fund balance for the reporting funds of the city. Your general fund this year increased their fund balance by $1.9 million, resulting in an ending fund balance of $15.5 million. Of that fund balance total, 6.9 is unassigned fund balance, which meets the criteria for the city's fund balance policy. As you can see there also, your mobility fee fund and 1% surcharge funds did have a decrease in fund balance, but that was just due to the projects that were ongoing inside those funds. As those projects get started up and get completed, you'll have a decrease in your fund balance there, but you still have a strong fund balance in those funds to complete those projects. Your other non-major funds include your capital projects funds, your park and recs impact, your CRA fund, and some other funds of the cities that don't meet the threshold to be reported as major funds. But as you can see there, there was a $7.4 million increase in fund balance related to those funds. On the next slide here, some more financial highlights related to your proprietary funds. Your water and sewer funds, of course, all of your proprietary funds actually had increases in your net position as well as favorable working capital ratios outside the Stevens Plantation DSD, which is partly related to some of the issues that we've already mentioned, as well as your internal service funds this year did have a decrease of $1.6 million in net position, but essentially that was actually that fund paying back to the paying funds that paid into the internal service fund to basically relieve that excess cash out of that fund and put it back into those departments. Your fiduciary fund, your employee retirement funds, which includes both pension, all your pension funds, did have a large increase this year in net position of $23 million, resulting in a net position of $152 million, and that's just due to the favorable market returns in the investment market for the fiscal year ending 9/30/2021. A few highlights of some significant items that occurred during the year. The American Rescue Plan Act funding. The city did receive the first tranche in the ARPA funding during the fiscal year. However, those balances are recorded as unearned revenue on your financial statements as of 9/30/2021. They will be recognized as revenue whenever the requirements for the eligibility are met, which we expect as the project and the decision is made for how to utilize those funds that will be met in that year. Also, there was also the significant sale in the Stevens Plantation DSD, the significant sale that occurred during the year, resulting in a small balance still left of land on the books related to that. Once that's sold, that can be all cleared up as well. A few other audit matters. We did implement GASB 84 fiduciary activities during the fiscal year, which is a new accounting standard that was enacted. It didn't have any major changes on the city's financial reporting in the current year. Also there you can see a list of some of the audit adjustments, significant audit adjustments that occurred during the audit, as well as past entries. We're just required to bring those to your attention. However, those entries, the significant entries, were made and are presented in the financial statements as adjusted balances in your financial presentation. Also included in the letter that Tim mentioned, that separate governance letter that is reported, we would also mention if there was any significant disagreements with management or any difficulties in performing the audit, they would be mentioned in that letter as well. I'm happy to report we do not have anything to bring to your attention at this time. And here's actually the two written written recommendations that we had during the fiscal year, which is your management letter comments. Both of these, though, are previous comments that are brought forward from previous years related to the Stevens Plantation and the DSD. So these are not new comments or new matters, and I know Tim's already kind of discussed those as well. So those were the only written management letter comments in the current year. And I'm not going to go through all this, but some of the future upcoming pronouncements. The first one there, though, is GASB 87 related to leases, and this will be enacted for the fiscal year ending 9/30/2022, your current year that you're in. Essentially, it's going to require the city to review any of their leases and agreements that they have in place to see if they're applicable under this standard and have to record a right-of-use asset on their balance sheet, essentially. So those items are being reviewed by your finance department for implementation in the current year. And the GASB 96 is a similar statement that's upcoming for the 23 year. However, it specifically relates to IT subscription-based software. And there's just some more upcoming pronouncements, but those are out a few years still. And that ends our presentation. Happy to answer any questions if anybody may have any questions.
Well, we certainly thank you for that presentation, that report. Would anyone on the council have any questions you'd like to ask? Councilmember Deputy Mayor Matheny?
I don't have any. I just thank you. I met with them before the meeting, and they spent a lot of time going through and answering all my questions. So you all are spared tonight. And so thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, what we love about you guys is the long history that you have and the excellence that you render in your work. And thank you so much for, once again, an excellent report. And I would just like to say thank you to our own finance department and director for the amazing job that you guys do. It is well deserved. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And also, just briefly, thank finance and the city management as well. We do come in asking lots of questions and show us this and show us that and give us space and room, and everybody's always very accommodating and quick with the answers.
Thank you
We
very much.
appreciate that as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. With that, we would like to go immediately to council action item number 1. Madam Clerk, will you please read that into the record?
Request City Council's acceptance of the city's annual comprehensive financial report, ACFR, for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 as presented by Privis, Gray and Company, LLC, independent auditors.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for Councilmember Askew, a second from Deputy Mayor Matheny for approval. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Excellent. Once again, thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the Citizens Forum. Any person who desires to comment on any item not on this agenda is provided this opportunity to address the City Council. Each person is requested to complete a sign-in form to be provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as is practical thereafter the person addresses the council. When you come forward, please state your name and address for the record, and we will ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Linda Pridgeon. We'll get the show started off with you.
And I'm walking up with a smile.
Good, I like that.
I'm Linda Pridgeon. My address is 6106 Oak Shore Drive, St. Cloud. I'm here regarding the business that my husband and I own at Pinch a Penny Pool Patio and Spa, located at 4507 Old Canoe Creek Road. We actually moved from our little spot at Cumberland Farms to that location in 2006. Never in a million years would I ever dream that in 18 and a half years, 16 at that location, that we could have grown to the size we have. I don't think any of us really expected to see this kind of growth. But what has happened is our store we're busy and we love it. We love our customers, try to do everything we can. But we currently have 23 employees. About half of those, 13 of those, are out in trucks throughout the city and county all day long. And then we have the store, the retail area there that we share also. The reason I'm standing here is not to tell you all of that. I'm saying all that to say this. had a visit from Alex, who was very nice, And I would like to say that Melissa has been very nice from code enforcement also. And there seems to be an issue with my employees parking on the grass behind our building. We've been doing that for 16 years. So when the code enforcer, Alex, came in and told us, you know, I'm kind of sorry, you've been thrown under the bus. You got cars on the grass, you got to move them. And she was nice. She gave me a courtesy notice. And come to find out, there was quite a few of them issued throughout the city. Mr. Sturgeon was nice. He talked to my husband. James had called several of you. Commissioner Askew, thank you for calling me back and telling me he's the one that told me to come here, so y'all blame him. But I've exasperated myself trying to find out where can I get 5 employees parked. I called Tractor Supply, no go, too much liability. The city requires that they can see all the way down the back. So I called Mr. Schofield, well, not Mr. Schofield, because he's not with us anymore. I talked to Alicia, and she says, you can park with the U-Haul trucks back there somewhere. And so if my tenants don't complain, that's what she said, or you can go all the way up to the front of 192 and have your employees park there, and then you can.
And I'll give you another minute. Go ahead.
Thank you. Then you can shuttle them back to work, or they can walk. And I said, I can't do that to my employees. I'm not that type of employer. I'll sit down there and wait for them to get there from 7 to 9 o'clock and deliver them to work. What I am asking is that Mayor Blackwell, Commissioner Askew, Commissioner Trace, Commissioner Matheny, and Commissioner Urban, please take a look at this. There's many of us businesses here in town, and I am facing right now letters from the county about them using the driveway going through our building there as a cutoff while they work on Neptune Road. They're going to allow the traffic coming off 192 to get to Old Canoe Creek Road so they can work on the light. So therefore, they're going to be using our parking lot for a detour system. So I'm just asking that y'all take a look at this. I have not been able to find a place for them to park. I've not purchased a shuttle bus. I've not hired anybody to shuttle. The reason I'm here, as well as my husband, is because our thing is I work the office and he's a union member, so I can tell him what not to. But I'm saying from the office, this is the summons I received today from Osceola County about what's fixing to happen at Neptune Road.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pridgen. Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. Mr. Manzares, I know where she's talking about where they park. That's not city property. That's county property. So is that a city, can city code enforce on county property? I guess is my first question. My second comment would be, if they're wanting to use your driveway for access for construction, I would use that as a conversation to get approval to park back there. Because, I mean, but I just am curious, how do we code enforce that's not on county property?
Well,
or city property?
My understanding is there's a county retention pond right there, and from the code enforcement perspective, the way those vehicles are being parked behind the building, they are being parked on a portion of the property on which the building located. That's a little center there. There's a couple of different businesses there. So if you look at some of the property appraisal maps and some of the aerial pictures, it'll show that the vehicles are sort of parked on part of the property and then on the county property there too, so they kind of straddle whatever the property line is there. The city code prohibits parking on unpaved surfaces, and it's in this area. And from a code enforcement perspective, there is a provision in the law that allows the city to pursue a violation if the violation is emanating from the particular business. In other words, that's the reason why this is happening. So the property owner there, and I don't know if these individuals own the property there or if they rent their space, but the property owner is responsible for what happens on their business that impacts, or on their property that impacts other properties. So that's kind of where we are with that. And the code does prohibit parking on unpaved surfaces, so it is a code enforcement action, and the city is pursuing it because of that. So whether the county, what's going on with the county, and whether the county has authorized them to park on that pond there, I don't have any information on that. And even if they did provide authorization, then we probably have to have a discussion with the county about parking on grass, allowing parking on a grass area.
I'm going to do some research for you.
Thank you, I would appreciate it so much.
And is this a matter that we can sit down and at least look at, or this is a,
Well, it is, these cases, there are several of these cases that have come up recently, and we are moving them through the special magistrate process on the code enforcement side. Code enforcement, the part of the responsibility of the code enforcement special magistrate is to provide somewhat of a reasonable opportunity to correct the violation. Whether one can be established for this particular location, I don't know. But if we do go to the special magistrate process, the special magistrate can provide some adequate time to try to address these issues, and we can address it there. As I said earlier, there are some other properties out there. I think we probably have at least 6 pending matters with a similar violation throughout the city. So we're going to try to treat them all as uniformly as we possibly can to address the issue.
but I do know they will be looking at it, seeing if there's any alternatives that we have.
Yeah.
Mr. Pridgen, you have something you'd add?
I'll just add this to this. My name is James Pridgen. This is my wife, the owner. I work for her most of the time.
I'm sorry about that.
You're out of time.
You have 30 more seconds.
Just riding around town, and unfortunately, well, no, it's not unfortunate, but fortunately, this city is growing like crazy. Everybody's been here long enough to know the city's growing. You know, we've doubled in size over the few years. And I just rode around for about a half an hour. I got 25 businesses parking in the grass, downtown, everywhere. I mean, it's because we are growing. You know, nobody knew that we would grow this fast, this big, when somebody built our building 15 years ago. You know, we've done a city planning, and that's what happened. This is the parking. The city said this is how many parking spaces you have to have, and we have parking problems every day without parking in the back. So I'm just asking you to please consider this, you know, under your because it's rampant in town.
Thank you. Are you going to turn those names into code enforcement?
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh, well, it certainly is a problem. I'm glad you guys are growing and the city is growing, and but we'll certainly be taking a look and see what we can do. Thank you so much. Jolie Long. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jolie Long, and I live at 5645 Nova Road, and we also own 5655 Nova. And I am here because we have the Westerly Estates neighborhood was built in next to our properties, and some of the homes built their fence well beyond their property line. We have a field fence that in some areas is 20 feet back from the property line. And so the neighbors believed, and they said that their real estate agent told them their property goes to the field fence. And so they have built fences with the permission of St. Cloud City to our fence line, to the field fence. And it is well on our property. We have 2 fences with, from that neighborhood, and an above-ground swimming pool. and it's on our property. And so and there's vegetation, people have put trees right on the property, there's sprinkler systems, it is a problem. We've approached the neighborhood, we've given them letters, we explained the situation. Some of the neighbors are very upset, understandably, if they thought they had an extra 20 feet on those smaller lots. And we went to the city said that it's a civil matter, which I don't believe it should be when you've signed off saying that it was done correctly. So we're asking you to help us enforce the code and get those fences and pool and stuff off our property.
Mr. Manzares?
I apologize, first I've heard of it, and happy to take whatever information we can and look into it and talk to staff about how to pursue it. Typically, what happens with fence permits is the fence permit is granted, but the city code does not currently require a survey for a fence permit to address the actual location of the fence. So I don't think from the legal perspective, the city's granting the permit gives those individuals the right to put the fence on somebody else's property.
Right.
And so, but we certainly can look into it and get with the deputy city manager, and we can figure out a course to try to help them out.
I think if you'll check into that, we'll certainly help.
Yeah,
Come back
if you
and address
have,
that.
if you don't mind, ma'am, if you have a,
Do you have,
I have
Somebody-
one, this is one of them.
Okay.
And it shows where they asked.
Okay, I got
If you
this.
look at the other side.
So hang on, if you're going to speak.
you need to
anyway-
speak at the microphone,
But I was
please,
going to ask, can I have this?
for the record.
Can he keep that? It's the only copy we have.
Well-
We actually got it from,
She'll make a copy of it.
but if you look at the picture on the back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Kelly, can you just give me, I'd rather if you could just, you mind just running a copy of that pretty quick? Thank you.
If you look at the picture, it shows where they're asking for the extension past their property, and it was granted by the city, and then the city came out and signed off on it, that it was built properly.
Okay, we'll check into that.
Thank you.
I have, James, are you wanting to add something new to that, please?
No, it's actually
Something new?
same development, some different issues.
Okay.
James Long, 5645 Nova Road and 5655 Nova Road. Again, concerning Westerly Estates, I would like to address property lot grading and runoff. We originally approached the builder in 2019 as they were finishing some of the properties after a big storm, and we had runoff and flooding and washout onto our property, and said, can you please fix that? They said, oh, we'll take care of it. They finished up and left. We could never get a response. Eventually, we brought it back up with the city. We reached out to the builders, to the developer, and to the engineer on record, none of which would respond to us. Finally, we got one of the city engineer people to talk to us. Part of the issue is as Jolie indicated, our field fence runs between 20 and 10 feet into our property, so their marker pins are way set back. A lot of the grading was done very sloppily because of that. In one instance, we've got 2 feet higher on our property because they assumed that 20 feet was something that they could grade on. Finally, the city engineer told us the bond has gone out. It is a civil matter between you and the homeowners. And we said, well, why is that a civil matter between a new homeowner and us when it was a problem created by a developer and builders and approved by you as a city? And they said, there's nothing we can do. So we hired our own survey crews, and we surveyed each of these backyards, about 10 to 15 homes that back up to our property. And what we found is if you mark the 4 corners, they're pretty close. But if you go anywhere else, the lots swell up higher by the home, and they drop down. And so we are getting runoff onto our property that we shouldn't. They should have been graded and A modified. And if you go and check the lots, there is a slight slope to our property. Now, if it was one home, that wouldn't be an issue. But when we've got 15 or more homes that have this issue, then we're concerned. It's unfortunate we started out saying, hey, what can we do to work through this with you? And we've gotten, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And in fact, the Water Management District said, well, we're going to go off of what the engineer has said. We don't care necessarily that you've come with 20 points on each of these lots showing that it is graded poorly. We have one document versus the other, and we'll go off of the document that the engineer has given us. So as a homeowner, we have come to you as a city and our neighbor, because we are county property, to help us hopefully resolve this issue.
All right. You add that to your list and get with Mr. Edwards and see if this might be something he could help us with.
I think Mr. Edwards is giving out some information.
I believe
about
he's
how we manage.
back there now. If you
Thank you.
speak to Mr. Edwards. I can't imagine how frustrating all of this must be for you guys.
So frustrating.
Richard Lawrence.
Ahoy there, everybody. I am Captain Richard Lawrence. I live at 211 Indiana Avenue here in town. I grew up here in St. Cloud. I grew up in Narcoossee. I remember the dirt roads and all that, which wasn't long ago. I recently started a company over here at the lakefront where I do sunset cruises and some daytime runs and some nighttime parties. We run, at this current time, one of the larger boats on the lake. It's a 40-foot pontoon boat. And we've gotten a lot of really awesome response from the community. One thing we weren't expecting was the massive drawdown of the lake made it a little inaccessible for me to get to my personal dock with the boat lately. I've been working with Ms. Holtkamp for about a year now. We've been trying to get permitting and something to push through to be able to park the commercial boat at the marina. Currently, there isn't a slip big enough, but the waters on the backside of the marina are not governed by the city. So here lately, I haven't had much of a choice but to park in the weeds behind the marina. And recently somebody had said, hey, please do not do so. So we're just anchoring offshore down the waterway, unfortunately. My question and my hope from you guys would be, can we push through something to be able to dock this commercial boat at the marina for future use and also use some of the floating docks? Since the water level has gone down, I can no longer get the handy accessible folks on my boat. I cannot use my ramps anymore. My boat used to sit higher than the seawall. Now I'm sitting lower than the seawall. So I've had to turn down some of our locals and stuff of that nature. I'm so proud to be here in St. Cloud and to start a business. It's really cool and a terrifying feeling all at the same time. And it's really cool that we're doing something new and exciting to the town. I mean, it's pretty cool, and I'm stupid as it sounds, I'd like to see this on a phone book one day. I think it'd be cool, staple for St. Cloud, to see river boats back on our water. But I know we don't have commercial boats here. We haven't had them in quite some time, probably over 100 years. So I'm the first of its kind coming back into it, doing these cruises. And I was wanting to see what we could do to move forward together as a family and bring something cool back to St. Cloud and be able to get these handy-capable people on the boat and load and unload passengers safely without upsetting anybody, and being able to park the boat for future, whether this one or a future bigger boat. It'd be nice to see what we could do.
All right.
If I could ask Ms. Holtkamp if she has anything helpful to add or that we need the council to consider, or we can just go ahead and look to see what options we may have.
Oh, there you go. I didn't even see you back there.
So, I mean, there's a couple of options. Dan and I, we worked on a ordinance to allow for boat rental business via permit, but we're still working through that issue. I'm not sure allowing Captain Lawrence to park his boat there for commercial activity. If we allow him, we would have to allow everybody else before we got an ordinance and a permit in place, and we can work towards that. We can also put out an RFP or a bid for boat rentals. I mean, we've done that in the past, and we've never gotten anybody to respond. I mean, I'd be more than happy to put that back out and see what we get. Might be a quicker process if we do it that way.
Well, it sounds like this is something you certainly need to sit down with staff and you guys need to take a look at, see if there are any options that are viable. And so if you could do that, we'd be grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just would like to state, so boat rentals are definitely indeed different than what we are doing. This is a captain's vessel with $1 million policy where somebody's renting a boat without a license and going out and doing what they do. So this would be a completely different subject.
All right, well, we'll be looking to see if there's any way we can accommodate you on that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in the citizens forum? If not, that brings us to our consent agenda. The next portion of tonight's meeting is the consent agenda, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, now is the opportunity for you to do so. Additionally, if staff or members of the City Council wish to speak on a consent item, they have the same opportunity. First of all, are there any items on the consent agenda that staff are wanting to address individually?
Council or staff?
I'm sorry. Council, anyone on the council? Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I would like to talk about A.
A? Anyone else? If not, then we will turn it over to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I am in support of this item. I just wanted to, I had asked the city manager and the deputy city manager if we should add some language in here to allow the city manager to sign any associated documents with this moving forward, you know, so it doesn't have to come back to us. Mr. Sturgeon had put something in an email, but it was kind of vague, but I would just like to, you know, add that to this. I would make a motion to approve this, and then just to add the language that the city manager can sign any associated documents with the grants, just because, as we talked before, there's a million pieces of paper that are gonna float around and you have to get signed, and there has to be authorization, a resolution, and that. And I think we talked in the last meeting about making that kind of a boilerplate, which I maybe was too late to grab this agenda.
Well, there certainly was a consensus then. I'm assuming there is now. And Mr. Mazzaro?
I just want, I'm not so familiar with the grant, but is there a potential that this grant might require a contribution from the city, and do we know what that amount is?
10%.
I would have to ask Mr. Lloyd to come up and address that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes, I think there is.
And again, the issue comes back to the amount. If we know the amount of that contribution, then I think we'll be okay with that language.
Terry Lloyd, Aviation Coordinator for the City of St. Cloud. Yes, the grant must be matched by a minimum of $50,000.
By a minimum of 50,000.
Yes.
So I guess in theory, if the grant's if the grant's $1 million, then there's a $100,000 commitment. Is that basically, is it a 10% match?
Yeah, currently it's a $500,000 grant, has to be matched by $50,000.
Okay. All right.
I'm okay with anything that's like money related, if that can come back, but a lot of times it's just like signing paperwork, and if it's outside of the city manager's approval authority and we don't know the dollar amount, I'm fine that coming back.
So do we have you thoroughly confused?
No, I think the deputy mayor's motion is that unless it's outside the authority from a monetary perspective
Right.
of the city manager is authorized to sign off on all the documents.
Okay.
You need a second for that? Second?
I can't make the motion.
Give me just a second point. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, could I entertain a motion for the adoption of this? We'll vote on this item separately with the,
Do I have to say that all over again?
no, I think we all know what you asked, what you added. So we're going to vote for the approval of this. Do I have a motion for the adoption of Resolution 2022-088R with the caveat that the city manager is able to sign without
Any
having to come back?
associated paperwork and
Right.
money up to his approval authority.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Did I get a motion?
Yeah, well, yeah, yes.
Motion by Councilmember Matheny, second by Councilmember Askew. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Askew?
Aye.
Councilmember Trace?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
That brings us back to items B through the rest of the consent agenda. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to any item of this agenda? If not, we'll have this motion and/or discussion by council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Askew, have a second, Councilmember Trace. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny. Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
That brings us to public hearings. Item number 1, Madam Clerk.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-20, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Article 3 zoning regulations, Division 18, off-street and bicycle parking, loading, Division 26, non-residential architectural standards, amending Article 8, landscaping and tree protection, Division 5, landscaping, providing for applicability and effects, severability, Scribner's error, conflict, copies on file, and effective date.
Good afternoon, Dagmar Segarra, Planning Manager. This is the second hearing of the amendments to the Land Development Code for adopting new residential architectural standards and some amendments to the zoning code. The amendments are going to remain the same, so the presentation is pretty much the same. The only thing that I would like to point out is based on the recommendations of the City Council on our first reading, what the staff has decided is, or it was decided at that time, is that these amendments are going to be adopted with these minimum standards, and we're currently working to acquire the services of a consultant to make amendments to this code and make it a more complete and more aligned the vision of the City Council. Some of the requirements that but not limited to, that are going to be reviewed by the consultants is, I know that there were some discussions about the 60% paver driveway in the pavers. We decided to, because this was a discussion at the previous workshops last year, we decided to maintain the language of those pavers and the driveways and be part of the further analysis by the consultant. Another of the items that were brought up at the last hearing is the roof materials. Right now, the ordinance does not contain any roof material requirements, and I know that there's a concern by some of the council members, and we're going to ask the consultants to enhance on that area. The same thing, porches and stoops were part of the conversation of the previous workshops that were not included on this specific amendment, which were going to be reviewed by the consultant and provide better recommendations for that, as well with exterior materials. Other than that, all of the changes that are proposed are going to be remain as were presented on the first reading. And as we discussed on the last hearing, Planning Commission recommended denial of this item. The City Council recommended approval of the first reading, and we are requesting approval of the second hearing. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Thank you. Just to clarify, is there still language in there about 60% can be driveway?
Yes, the same language of the 60%, we kept it because that was
You
part
just
of
took the paver part out of it.
the pavers part of it.
So I think our conversation was with 60% was too much to be a driveway, period, regardless of the material. I don't know how the other council members feel. I feel like 60% is a gigantic driveway.
That's not a minimum requirement. That the 60%.
Well, I hope it's not a minimum.
No, that's what
I thought it was a maximum, and so, I mean, I just think 60 is too much. I'll see what my other council members feel about that.
Any other discussion, comment? Councilmember Trace?
Thank you. There's a big differentiation between, like, if it's townhomes or single-family or alley-loaded or street-loaded, so it's just, I don't know. We're trying to get very specific, but then kind of missing the boat on some other stuff. So, I mean, I think the paver part is still in the copy I have in my agenda. So, it just says pavers are required if it's over 60%. Which is, yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor Matheny, is just too much.
Like regardless of what product type it is, I think it's too much, like.
Yeah,
heaven
for the
for-
front yard, but the backyard, if it's just the alley, you know.
Yeah, if it's alley loaded, that's a different thing, but front loaded, like the front, your percentage of the front of your yard can be 60% driveway.
Yeah. So I think this is something that we should probably workshop whenever we get.
Yeah, I don't want the
something back from-
60%. Isn't there some, don't we already have something in our code about the percentage of impervious on the lot? And so 60% seems to be contrary to that, because I don't think you can have more than 50% of your lot be impervious.
It depends, because everything's a PD now, so it's whatever the PD says.
But I thought that was an overarching rule of ours. So, I don't know, I don't want the 60% in there.
So is that something that they can certainly take a look at, have the consultant also make that part of what he,
But we're gonna adopt
This is
it
the
with
final.
60%.
this is final?
Yeah,
What are you gonna
we can
change
make,
it
I
to?
mean, it's to the pleasure of the council. I mean, we can strike the 60% requirement on the driveways. We can, or leave it to the consultant as part of the analysis and make the recommendations of what could be an appropriate percentage.
I'll make a motion to approve this striking the 60% out
That
of.
whole item, right?
Yeah, that whole item.
And that's item G, driveways.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a second from Councilmember Trace, motion from Councilmember Matheny for the adoption of ordinance number 2022-20 with the deletion of the item regarding a 60-foot driveway,
Percent.
percent rather.
Can I ask for clarification? Is the pleasure of the council to remove entire G? Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And I think we jumped the gun on public input part.
Yes. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? I think I addressed that earlier. Yeah, I
Do we?
did.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 2.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2022-21, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending signage development standards for the PUD Retail Center, established in ordinance number 2003-68 as amended, an ordinance which assigned a zoning designation of Planned Unit Development PUD to Stevens Plantation located south of Nolte Road, east of Lafayette Trace Drive, and west of Canoe Creek Road, providing for filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Dagmary Segarra, Planning Manager. Again, good evening. So this is a second reading for the amendments to the sign for the Stevens Plantations PUD amendment. The future land use is low density. The current zoning is a PUD. The proposed amendments are listed, are highlighted in the ordinance. Based on our first reading back in April 14, the following changes were made to the amended PD. We increased the maximum size of the copy area from 96 square foot to 100 square feet for the one freestanding double-sided Monument Plaza sign. And we decreased the maximum height from 15 feet to 8 feet. And this was based on recommendations of the City Council during that first reading. The development is compatible with the surrounding area, and there are no impacts to the city's facilities. It meets the strategic goals of growth management and infrastructure. DRC recommended approval, Planning Commission recommended approval, and City Council requested this evening is approval of the final ordinance.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Athenia, second Councilmember Trace. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings to item number 3.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2022-22, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, closing, vacating, and abandoning the right-of-way located east of Friars Cove Lane and north of Friars Cove Road, specifically described in the body of this ordinance, providing for suburbility, conflict, and effective date.
Good evening, Erin Stark, Transportation Manager. The case in front of you today is for the Skaggs right-of-way vacation. The background on the property is located east of Friars Cove Lane and north of Friars Cove Road, towards the south end of the city limits. The applicant is requesting the vacation of the right-of-way, which is unimproved and services no adjacent properties. The land development allows for this and includes 4 criteria. We've completed all the review and assessment of those criteria, contacted utility providers, and there were no objections received and no utilities or future plans for that right-of-way with the city are on file. This meets the strategic plan goals for growth management. And I will also add that there was a condition of approval in your slide. I guess it's not included in on the screen, missing those slides, but you'll see in your package that there's a condition of approval that we are recommending the dedication of right-of-way on another portion of the property. The applicant, there is a roadway through that, the Friars Cove Road. It's 35 feet in width. The standard for a local road is 50 feet in width. And recently, you guys have heard some other vacation items, and you've tackled some dedication as a part of that as well. So as a part of the staff comments, we asked for that dedication, and the applicant has complied and given us a sketch of description for that area to propose to add 7.5 feet on the sides of the existing right-of-way. I have the sketch of description if anyone is interested in seeing what I'm talking about, but I'm working with the city attorney on how to bring forward the dedication with this vacation at your next public hearing or as a subsequent item, but we would ask for conditional approval of this, conditioned on the dedication of the remaining 15 feet of missing right-of-way elsewhere on their property. And I can pass this out, especially since you're missing those slides. It may be helpful for you, but if not, we can present that information at the second
Does anyone
hearing.
need that information? This is the first reading. Okay. Is the applicant here? Would the applicant like to speak to this item? Please state your name and address for the record.
Rick Brown with Johnson Surveying. The applicant, she's out of state, but on her behalf, she's given up 15 feet of frontage to obtain 17.5 in the back. So, council's favor on this would be much appreciated.
Thank you. Would anyone in this audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council regarding this first reading.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a motion from Councilmember Askew, second from the mayor. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
This brings us to council action. Item number 1 has already been approved. Brings us to item number 2.
Resolution number 2022 111R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, approving a water and wastewater agreement from Starlight Homes Florida LLC for Jones Road Townhomes, a residential development in the unincorporated area of Osceola County on the north side of Jones Road, south of Jack Brack Road, west of Outback Road, and east of Narcousie Road, authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement and providing an effective date.
Good evening. Marjorie Craig, Environmental Utilities Director. This development is in the county, so it's being brought before you. It will be 113 residential units, and it's located where you can see the yellow mark. And there you can see how close it is to the city limits, which are in orange. And you can see that all of the possible requirements are checked. If they were not in the agreement, they would not be checked, and I will not read them to you. Are you feeling blessed? Go through them. And staff recommends approval of this water and wastewater agreement.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this item? Would anyone in the audience like to speak? If not, we'll have discussion or motion by council.
Motion approved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Trace.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Askew. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Askew.
Aye.
Councilmember Trace.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manzares?
I do not have anything, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mrs. Miller?
I also do not have anything. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
I'm glad to have the mayor back and running this meeting shipshape. I don't have anything else.
Thank you very much. Mr. Urban?
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Trace?
I'm just amazed you're able to write with your left hand and probably read it too. Or your right hand.
That's it?
Yep.
Mr. Askew?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
That brings us to our information report session because I do not have anything to add. Thursday, May the 19th, there'll be a city council workshop at 3 p.m. here at City Hall, council chambers. Thursday, May the 26th, there'll be a city council meeting at 6:30 p.m., also here in council chambers. Monday, May the 30th, city offices will be closed in observance of the Memorial Day holiday. We have issued proclamations in recognition of National Public Works Week, a proclamation in recognition of National EMS Week today. Reports are available for your review. Warrant list number 11, the Tree Advisory Committee minutes for February 2022, which have been approved. There are no other items. Seeing there are not, we will be adjourned. Thank you for participating in your city government.